Hey guys, it's Emily and welcome to episodes 2 of Books Around the World, in which I read books set in different cities, countries, and continents. So in the second episode, we're actually going on a road trip through the United States. So I'm very excited because I initially had different plans for this location. I know a lot of contemporaries are set in the US, whether it's explicitly set or not, at least the ones that I read. So I thought that instead of just reading like anything and call it the US, I would try to read books that have some kind of traveling elements throughout the US. So basically what I mean is I will read books where the main characters travel through the US, whether that's through an airplane, a train ride, hiking, road trips, etc. So I was supposed to do one US episode where I had a couple of books for each form of travel. However, I found a Twitter thread that I will leave linked in the description box down below if you guys want to check it out, where everyone was recommending books that involve some kind of travel, and I think like the actual wording was like road trip romance, and I just found so many books through that thread, and I ended up having like quite a big TBR for the road trip aspect, so I decided to make it a whole episode. So there will be a second part at least for the US location. So obviously if you guys have any recommendations for books that are set in the United States, please make sure to leave them in the comments down below. But today we will be focusing on road trips. So before I dive into my TBR, I wanted to mention a couple of things beforehand. First, June is Pride Month. As I'm filming this, we are in the middle of the month of June and it is Pride Month. So I wanted to make sure to incorporate at least one book or more written by queer authors or that feature queer main characters. I had different plans for the second episode of this series. I was not supposed to do the US road trip, but when I saw that my TBR included some books that are written by queer authors, I just thought that it was the time for me to read them right now. So we have a couple of books on this TBR that do feature queer authors or main characters. Also, I'm sure you guys are aware of what is happening in the world right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. I will leave a link to a list of resources in the description box down below if you guys want to donate, sign petitions, or try to help out in any way. But because of that, I wanted to make sure to read books that are written by Black authors or that feature Black main characters. And since this TBR includes some books written by Black authors or featuring Black main characters, I thought it was also the perfect time for me to read them. So those are the two main factors that had an impact on why I decided to choose to do this episode now instead of later. And I'm very excited about my TBR, so I'm glad that I made these changes, I guess. And lastly, in the first episode, I asked you guys if you had been made aware of anyone who had done something similar in the past, and someone recommended a bunch of Goodreads groups. Basically, they are book clubs where the people in it read books that are set in different cities or countries every month. And I don't know why I never thought of checking out Goodreads groups. I know that on YouTube no one has ever done something that is exactly like what I'm doing. However, there are a couple of Goodreads book club that you guys can join if you guys want to check them out. I will leave the links in the description box down below as well. So thank you to whoever recommended them, because I never would have thought to check them. And I think if you guys are looking to connect with people and just read more books that are different from what you would typically read, those are great. So I would highly recommend you guys check them out. Now let's dive into the TBR. I have quite a few books. I have 8 books in total for this episode. So I'll try to go through them very quickly because I don't want this intro to be super long. I know it's already long. I don't want to make it even longer. So I'll try to be super short and sweet when it comes to the description of each book. So the first book that I will be reading is The Geography of Lost Things by Brody. So basically in this book, the main character's father dies and he leaves his daughter his car, but Allie, the daughter, doesn't want the car, so she decides to sell it, and the buyer is like 300 miles away or something like that. They're very far away from her location, so she has to drive the car up there, up the Pacific coast. However, Allie does not drive stick, so she asks her ex-boyfriend Nico, who does drive stick, to come with her and get the car to the buyer. I know there's also trading elements involved where like the characters are like trading up to get money. I don't know. I'm just excited to read this. I know Alien Bookland really liked Brody as an author, so I'm excited to finally check her out. Book number 2 that I will be reading is Open Road Summer by Emery. So in this book, we are following our two main characters, Regan and Lila. Both of them are heartbroken, so they're going through a breakup, but Lila is a country superstar and she's going on a tour throughout the summer, and so Regan decides to take this opportunity to join in and to have a girls only summer adventure with her best friend. However, the first act of the tour, I think his name is Matt, is super cute and Regan is very into him. So very excited for this one. Also, like, this cover is really pretty, but when I bought it, didn't realize, but it's signed. Book number 3 is I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina. So this book is written by a Black author, and it also features a Black main character, as you can tell by the cover. In this book, we're following our main character Chloe, who wants to be a professional dancer. I don't know if it's ballet dancer or just like dancer, but she wants to go to this conservatory to perfect her art, I guess, but her mother forbids her from applying, and so Chloe devises this plan. She'll be going to the nearest audition location, which is like 200 miles away from where she is, but on her way there, her annoying neighbor, Eli, I think his name is, decides to hitch a ride and threatens Chloe to tell her mother where she's going if she doesn't allow him to drive with her. I'm very excited for this one. I've heard great things. It was one of the books that was recommended the most in the thread, so I'm very excited to read it. Next up, we have Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. So this is a reread. I've read this book several times over the years. It is one of my all-time favorite YA contemporaries, and I'm excited to be rereading it. We're following our main character, Amy, and Amy and her mother are moving across the US. Her mother leaves early to prep the house, and so Amy can finish her school year at home. So Amy has to drive all by herself across the United States to go to her new location, but Amy doesn't drive. So Amy's mom asks their neighbor's son, Roger, to join Amy on this ride, I guess, and like to drive her there. I think his father lives like in the nearby area, so it's kind of convenient because he was supposed to spend the summer there anyway. And Amy's mom has prepared this whole itinerary and like planned out their entire route, like their hotels and everything. But Amy and Roger decides to take an unexpected detour. So excited for this one. It is one of my all-time favorites. Next up, we have Your Destination is on the Left by Lauren Spieller. So in this book, we're following our main character, Dessa, and I believe like her family is kind of a nomad family, so they're traveling across the US in an RV. Our main character wants to become an artist, and she has applied to art school, but she hasn't been accepted anywhere. So when this job opens up in New Mexico, she decides to take it because it's an opportunity for her to work and like get to know the art scene, I guess. So she'll have to decide whether she wants to stay at this new job or if she wants to continue traveling across the states with her family. Book number 6 is The Disenchantments by Nina Lacour. So in this book, we are following our two main characters, Bev and Colby, I believe, and they have always had this plan that once they graduate, they will go on a tour with Bev's band and then travel across Europe. But Bev decides to apply to college, and like she is going to college in the fall, so their entire plan is like ruined. But the band is still going on a tour, and Colby and Bev will have to kind of decide where their relationship stands with all of this. I know Nina Lacour is a queer author, so I thought that I would incorporate this book in my TBR, even though I'm not sure if it features queer main characters, but I know Nina Lacour is a queer author, so that's why I thought it was important to read it this month. Book number 7 is Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert. So in this book, we're following our two main characters who are like mortal enemies. Both of them are stuck together and have to drive across the country to this big fan convention. I also know that there's like some kind of gaming competition involved. I think they're both really willing to do anything to win, and that includes maybe ruining something that would be very special. This is a male-male romance, very excited. The author is also queer. I have an arc of this, but the book is already out by the time you're watching this. And finally, book number 8 is Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace. So this book follows our main character Jolene, who is helping her sister move cross-country across the US, and initially her father was supposed to drive with them. However, at the last minute, her father deserts them and he goes on this all-expenses paid vacation, leaving Jolene to drive with this man who she absolutely despises, and the feeling is mutual. So that's it for my little TBR. I am in the middle of my workday right now, so as soon as work is over, we are finally going to read our first book. Alright, so my workday is over and it's now time for me to pick my first read, and I think I'm going to kick off the ball with Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. As I mentioned, it's a reread for me. It's the only reread in this list, so I thought it would be a nice way to kick things off, especially since it is one of my favorite books. I just love this book so much. I read it twice before. I'm so excited for a third reread because it's been a while since I've last read it, and this book just screams summer to me. I don't know if it's because I've read it during the summer season before, but I'm in the mood for this. We're approaching the official start date of summer and I'm just really in the mood to read this, so I'm excited to start reading this. But before I dive into my book, I have thought of a little game that we can play while I read all the books on my TBR. And I know that during road trips there's a lot of people who like play games to help pass time, and it kind of inspired me to create my own game. One of the games that I've seen people play in the past is the license plate game. There's many ways that you can go about it. I've seen people like try to have the plates spell something. But another way that I think is really cool and that I've done in the past on road trips is try to get license plates from as many states as possible, and this kind of inspired me to play my own game. So I have printed this map of the United States. I don't know if you can really see it, but I thought it would be nice to color in the states that the main characters of the books that I will be reading this week will be visiting, and that way we can see which states they travel to. And I thought it would be a nice way to see like if there's any pattern, or maybe like there are states that people never go to on road trips. I have a feeling that Alaska and Hawaii won't get colored in, like they're here, but other than that, anything is up for grabs. So I'm excited to see it, and I thought it would be a nice way to help pass the time, like just play a little game as if we were on our own road trip. Alright, so I finished reading Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, and once again, I loved this book so much. I feel like Morgan Matson is really good at taking a cute, fluffy story and adding a layer of depth to it, because this book really dives into deeper and darker topics such as death of a loved one and anxiety and PTSD, and there's a lot more to it than you would think at first glance, and I really appreciate that about it. I also feel like she did a really great job at portraying all of these characters. Yes, we have our two main characters, Amy and Rogers, and those are portrayed really well, but there's also a bunch of side characters that our two protagonists meet along the way, and all of them are super distinct. They all have their own personalities, and I really appreciated that about it, because this book is a lot more plot heavy than I remembered it being. I realized as I was reading that they cover a lot more ground than I remembered, and I really like that about it. We'll dive into the map in a second, but I really enjoyed this book and I would highly recommend it if you guys haven't checked it out yet. Another strength of this book is that it's a mixed media format, so not only do we get the story, but there's also like playlists and pictures and like somewhat of a diary, and I really liked that aspect of the book because it makes the whole experience a lot more immersive and you really feel like you're there with them visiting all of those different places. I really enjoyed this book. Like honestly, it's so good and it's one of my favorites for a reason, and I'm remembering it now and I really loved it. Now let's talk about all of the ground that it covered through the map. So let me give you like a closer look. So as you can tell, they go through like a lot of states. They covered 15 different states if I counted correctly. I didn't remember them going through so much. I also decided to use only one color for the book, and each book is going to get its own color. However, if for some reason like they intercross, like let's say the next book also goes to Kansas, well, I won't color over the color that I've already used. I'll just like consider it done. Now it's time to pick our next read, and so I think I'm going to read Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace. I'm in a mood to read like an adult romance, so this is going to be good. It's a shorter book, so I think I might be able to finish it in one night, which would be really nice. Okay, so we have a problem. I have finished reading Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace, which is not a problem in itself, but as you might be able to tell, I didn't add any new colors to my map. Okay, so the book wasn't super descriptive in terms of location. I mean, there were a little bit of like scenery mentioned here and there that could tip you off as to where the book was set, but overall there wasn't anything super specific as to like where the characters went, except for that one city called Gregory Lake, I believe. When I did research on it, I couldn't really find anything specific about it. Like I couldn't find anything in the US at the very least. As the book went on, I started thinking that maybe the book wasn't set in the US at all. I think the book might actually have been set in Canada, which like it's not a problem normally, but considering how this video is about reading books that are set in the US where our characters go through a road trip, not ideal. So maybe this wasn't the best pick for this video simply because it's not specific in terms of the location, and maybe Gregory Lake is literally like a fictional town. Maybe it doesn't exist. But yeah, overall I did still enjoy the book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it. I liked the chemistry chemistry between our two main characters. However, I do feel like the road trip was really short, and I was reading it for the road trip aspect. Like it was over within like the first 40% of the book, which was such a shame because like I said, this is why I was reading it. But I did really enjoy the road trip aspect, and I was still into what happened afterwards. I really liked our main character Jolene. I liked her job. Like she works in PR, and it's kind of something I've always wanted to do. Like it's kind of related to my field of work, so I could relate a little bit to what she was going through. Yeah, I just liked the chemistry between our two main protagonists. I really liked the romance, and the smut was really good as well. It was a good book. Like I really enjoyed it, but I don't think it was the best pick for this video specifically. Now it's time for me to pick my next read, which will hopefully be a little bit more descriptive in terms of location, and I think I'm gonna go with The Disenchantments by Lacour. I'll be honest, I'm kind of hesitant diving into it because I've read, I think it's called Everything Leads to You, and I wasn't that big a fan. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars. Like it was okay, but I didn't love it. But then I read her short story in Summer Days and Summer Nights, and it was one of my favorite stories. So I'm not too sure how I will feel about this book. I haven't read the best of reviews about it. Like most people give it like a 3 stars or lower, so I'm kind of sad, but hopefully I will enjoy it. Hello! So, I have finished reading The Disenchantments by Lacour, and I'll keep it short and sweet, but I don't have much to say about this book. Like I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was fine, but it wasn't like a new favorite or anything like that. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, which is great, but I also didn't have any particular feelings towards the book. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say because I feel like there wasn't much plot going on. It's a very character driven book, which is kind of surprising considering that this is like a road trip. But I still enjoyed it, but I just wished that there had been, I don't know, something more. I feel like there was something missing from the plot, and maybe it's because I didn't really connect with any of the characters. I liked most of them except for Bev. I really didn't like her. I felt like she had this manic pixie dream girl vibe, and I just really didn't like that. I felt like Colby, our main character, and like her narrator just like forgave her for everything, and like she's a bitch. Like let's be honest here, she's not great, and I didn't really like her. I liked the other characters. Like Alexa is probably my favorite. I felt like I could relate to her on a certain level. Like she's very type A, like she organized the whole tour. She is very like list driven as well, and I don't know, I just liked her a lot, and I wished there had been more interactions involving her. Like she's a character that we probably saw the less of, which is sad because like I said, she was my favorite. The other characters were fine. I mean, I thought it was interesting that we were reading from a boy's perspective because I feel like a lot of the YA contemporaries and just like books in general that I read are told from a girl's perspective, and it's probably because I read a lot of books written by women. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting to read from a boy's perspective for once. I also really liked the ending of this. Overall, it was okay. It wasn't anything particularly great, but it wasn't also bad. Map update. As you can tell, we have a new color on the map. Now we have the entire West Coast. The book was set over the course of a week, so they didn't cover a lot of ground, and most of the plot took place in California, which is like a big ass state. I'm really hoping that the map will get more colorful as we go along. I'm afraid that so far, like Amy and Rogers are the one that covered the most ground. I'm afraid that we won't get a lot of other destinations. I feel like the most popular ones have been already taken by Amy and Rogers. But now, time to pick my next read, and I think I'm going to go with Your Destination Is on the Left by Lauren Spieller. I'm intrigued by this one. I love the cover of this. It's so pretty. Hey guys, so it has been a couple of days since I have last updated you, but I have finished reading Your Destination's on the Left by Lauren Spieller. So this ended up being a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting much diving into it. The premise wasn't calling to me all that much. I was reading it mostly because I thought there was a road trip involved, and like I had hopes, but at the same time I wasn't too sure what to expect. But I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I really liked the whole being at crossroad thing that this book deals with. Tessa, our main character, has always wanted to go to art school. She wants to be an artist, but she's been rejected everywhere she applied to. So it's been interesting seeing her path, like trying to figure out what's next for her. And I feel like I've read a lot of books about college students or people that are about to go to college, like high school students who are college bound, but we don't read a lot about the students who have been rejected or have to change their path. So I thought that was an interesting perspective because, like I said, I haven't read a lot of books about people who are not going to college at her age, and I thought it was refreshing to read from that point of view. Also, I really like the whole art aspect of this book. As I said, our main character is an artist, or she wants to be, and she goes to intern for this well-known artist, and therefore art is a big part of the book. And I really enjoyed that aspect because I don't know much about art. I'm not an artist, and I can appreciate art, but I don't know much about art. And so I thought it was interesting seeing their process and how like running an art show is like, or just like what being an artist is like, and how can you make a living out of it. I just thought it was interesting to see art represented in a book because I haven't read a lot of books about artists, so I thought that was nice and different, so I enjoyed that about it. However, I did have a couple of issues with it, first being the love interest. I'll be honest, the romance in this book really didn't work for me. I didn't like the love interest like at all. I felt like he was dragging her down and just like keeping her from her dreams, and that doesn't sit well with me. Like, a big no for me. And they didn't have any chemistry, to be completely honest. Like, I feel like the only reason why they got together is because they knew each other and like they had grown up together, but I didn't feel anything when I read about them. I was just like, this is very platonic. It just wasn't working for me, and to be honest, I felt like it wasn't necessary in this book. Like, it could have been about Tessa and her journey, but the romance just wasn't necessary in my opinion. I feel like if you're looking for a road trip book, this book is probably not it. I mean, in terms of road trip vibes, it's probably like a 4 out of 10. There's something missing in this book about the whole traveling thing. Like, traveling is a big part of it because Tessa is part of a family of nomad who always travel. I feel like there wasn't much traveling, to be honest. Like, yes, they did travel from North Carolina to New Mexico, but it wasn't so much about the traveling. Like, we only saw their stops, nothing about like them being on the road or anything like that. And yes, travel is a big part of the book because it's like a core value of their family, but I don't know, it wasn't giving me a lot of like the road trip vibes that I was hoping to get out of it. I still enjoyed it, but if you're looking for a road trip book, that probably wouldn't be like the first one that I would recommend, but it was still good. So overall, a nice experience. I did enjoy it. And now it's time to pick our next read, and I think I'm going to go with I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina Forrest. Today is June 19th, and so it's Juneteenth today. It's a big day for Black Americans, so I thought that I would read a book by a Black author to kind of show my support, but also just because I've been wanting to read that book, and I'm very excited because it deals with a ballet dancer, or just like a dancer, so very excited about that. Hey guys, so sorry for the weird angle. As you can tell, I'm in my car. I thought since I'm doing a road trip vlog, it would be perfect to have a car update. So this is what I'm doing. I'm in a parking lot and it's really hot outside, so I'm trying to do this quickly. But I just wanted to update you guys on my reading, and I'm reading I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina Forrest, as you guys may know. And I'm currently on page 204. And oh my god, you guys, I think this might become one of my favorite books of 2020. It's just amazing. I love the writing. I love the characters. I really like how this is a raw story about like struggles that our characters are facing, but it's also super sweet and fun. I'm enjoying it. Like, the road trip vibes are probably at maybe a 7 or 8. It's not so much about the road trip, even though it is part of the book. I am really enjoying it, and I would really recommend it if you guys are looking for cute YA contemporary. I'm loving it, and this cover is just so beautiful. But no road trip would be complete without a snack. So I have a little snack haul for you guys. And so first off, I bought those new Maynard Sour Patch Kids, but those are mangoes, and I've never tried those before. So I thought this would be nice to have as a little road trip snack. And finally, we have some take-home size M&Ms with caramel, my favorite. Both of these snacks are not necessarily super healthy. However, I am planning on having a movie night tonight. I know one of the activities that we do on a road trip is watch movies. Like, I've done my research, and a lot of people seem to like watch movies, whether that is through a DVD and like a screen, or maybe you just download them on your phone and then you have them. And I've done that in the past. Like, I've watched movies on road trips, and so I thought it would be a nice addition to spice things up a little bit. Okay, so update, I'm reading I Want to Be Where You Are, and I just reached this chapter called Quarantined. It just feels too accurate for the situation we're in right now. Alright, so it is now much later and it is time for our movie night as promised. But before we dive into that, I wanted to update you guys on my reading. So I have finished reading I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina Forrest, and oh my god, it was incredible. I'm giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It's probably my favorite thing that I've read in this vlog so far, besides Amy and Rogers. I just loved this so freaking much. The characters were amazing, very diverse. I feel like they were very raw and very, I don't know, complex and realistic and relatable. I also loved how intricate the topic of dance was within the plot. Like, dance was a big part of Chloe's life, and therefore it was a big part of the book, and I really appreciated that. You could tell that the author used to be a dancer because like the language that is used and just like the choreographies that are described are very realistic. I just really appreciated that part of the book. I really liked the romance as well, and I just really enjoyed the book. So I would highly recommend that you guys check this out if you haven't already. It's by a Black author. It's super short also. It's like 250 pages and you just fly through it. Like, it's so good. I couldn't put it down, and it made me feel so many emotions, and I just really loved it. And then I have started reading The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody. I am currently on page 38, so I haven't made that much progress. I barely just started it, but now it's time for a movie night. I have my snacks. I have popped some popcorn because there would be no movie night without popcorn. I also have my snacks that we bought earlier, and I have my bottle of water on the side because we need some water. And I think I'm going to be watching a road trip movie. I initially wanted to watch Due Date. For some reason, I just felt like it was perfect. I've been in the mood to watch a Robert Downey Jr. movie. Don't ask why, bunch of reasons, but I've been wanting to watch a movie that he's featured in. But there's not a lot on Netflix Canada that is not like Marvel related, so I kind of had like to pick something else. So I ended up choosing Hangover, which probably isn't the best movie. It's probably not a very great movie. I was in the mood to watch something light, kind of stupid, but just like a comedy, just something like fun and relaxing. So that's the movie that we'll be watching tonight. Okay, so it is the next day and I have decided to start reading Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert. I know I said that I would be reading The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody. I started it last night and I don't know why. Today I was in the mood to pick up like a hate to love romance, and I know that Conventionally Yours has an enemies to lovers situation going on, so I decided to pick that one up. I started it this morning. I read like 2 chapters and so far I'm intrigued. There hasn't been much going on in the first 2 chapters. We just get introduced to the main characters, and I really like the fact that there's a non-binary character in the book. It's not like a main character, it's a side one, but I still am glad for the representation. I think we don't get to see a lot of non-binary characters in like the fiction world, so it's just interesting to read about something a bit different. But in the first 2 chapters that I've read, I can already tell that gaming is going to be a topic that is recurrent and very prominent in the book. I mean, all of our characters are gamers. I'm not sure I understand like the game that they're playing. I'm guessing it's like a kind of card game. I thought it was a video game, but I might be wrong. I'm not understanding it too much so far, but I've only read like 2 chapters, so like it's normal. It hasn't really been explained. Couple of hours since I last updated you guys. It's a new day, and yesterday I made it to the 60% mark in Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert, and you guys, I am loving this so far. It is so good. I love the fact that we are dealing with college age students. Both of them are in their early 20s, so we have one character that is 21 and the other one is 23. I just feel like we get a lot of like the high school years and like the adult life, but there's not a lot of books that have college age students, so I love that. Love that for me. Also, love the representation. There's a lot of representation in the book. As I mentioned before, we have a side character that is a non-binary person, and so I thought that was interesting. Even though we don't see them that often, they're there and they're mentioned and their pronouns are always used correctly, so that's something that I think is very important because I don't see a lot of books with non-binary people, and so I think it's important that we see them. But also, as I've mentioned before, I think our two main characters are gay. Well, I know one of them is gay for a fact because it's said on text that he's gay. The other one, I'm not sure. I feel like he might be, like, it's pretty obvious that he is into guys, but we don't know if he's gay, bisexual, pansexual, or something. And also he identifies as part of the asexual spectrum, which is very exciting. I feel like we don't get a lot of books that deal with asexual people, so once again, very great. One of our main characters is neurodiverse, and I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of representation. Obviously could do better in terms of having people of color, but in terms of the LGBTQ plus representation, it's great so far. Also, if you like geek culture, I feel like you would really love this book. It talks a lot about the game that they're playing, which I figured out is actually a card game. I don't know if it's a board game or just like cards. They talk about deck of cards a lot, but it's not a video game. It's like an actual physical game that you play. So I thought that was interesting. I feel like we don't see a lot of books that have this sort of topic, or actually I don't read a lot of books about that, so maybe there are more, but I just don't know about them. So I thought that was interesting. I still don't get the game fully. I feel like it hasn't really been explained, but it doesn't bother me as much as it did at first. But what I love most about this book is the romance. It's so cute. I'm just like, I love this book so much so far. Hey guys, so I feel like it's been a while since I've updated you. I don't even know when was the last time I filmed anything, but I have finished reading Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert, and oh my god, you guys, I loved it. It was so cute. Everything that I've said before, I still feel like it is 100% true. I loved the diversity. I love the gaming aspect of it, even though it is my only, I guess, critique of the book is that the game felt very abstract and I just didn't really know like the rules and everything, and I wish I had known more because whenever they were talking about the game, it just felt like I didn't really understand what was going on, and the game was such a big part of the book that I wish I had been more explained. But other than that, it was super cute. I loved the romance and it was just everything, and I highly recommend that you guys check it out. One of my favorites I've read so far this year, and I'm just so surprised by it. I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I did, and I fell in love with it. 5 out of 5 stars. But since then, I have started reading The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody. I'm about halfway. If you can tell, I'm on page 242. So far, it's okay. It's an interesting read. I just really thought I would be more interested in the plot, and I just am not at the moment. But it's fine. Like, it's not boring. It's not bad. I feel like it's a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, and those emotions are super valid, but I am not in the mood to read something like this. So maybe that's just like, I'm starting to hit like a reading slump. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm starting to get tired of the whole road trip thing, and maybe I should have like known that after 6 books about road trips I would get tired of reading the same things over and over again, because like it or not, it gets repetitive. I'm starting to regret my choices. We are car shopping, and sorry for the background noise. We're like right next to a boulevard, but obviously I had to bring you guys along. Alright, so I have finished reading The Geography of Lost Things by Jessica Brody, and for a book that is supposed to be an emotional ride, it is sure good at not making me feel a thing. So I ended up just like not caring about anything in this book. I just couldn't connect to the characters. I didn't really like them, to be completely honest. Like, I didn't like the main character, I didn't like the love interest, and since like they are the only 2 characters that we truly follow, I wasn't really interested in the story. I don't know, I feel like this is a book about a girl with daddy issues, and that's it. Like, there's no depth to this book. Like, there is an emotional journey, I'll give you that, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel like I could connect. So it just felt so very surface level, and it's maybe because I haven't experienced what our main characters have gone through, but I just felt like I couldn't create an emotional connection to the characters, and so I ended up just not caring, because it's really about their emotional journey, and if you don't care, well. Also, side note, there are like 2 main mysteries in this book, one of them being the name of our main character. She goes by Ali, but apparently it's not her first name. For a big part of the book, we are talking about how it's not her real name, and we're kind of intrigued as to what her real name is. And then mystery number 2, Nico does something very terrible at the beginning of the book, that's what we're told, and they broke up because of that. I don't know. When I found out what it was about, I just felt like both were just so dumb. Like the reason why they broke up is literally because Ali has daddy issues. And then her name was like, okay, it's not that big a deal. Like we were told that it was a like weird name. It is kind of weird, but it's not that bad. So I was just like, really? But still, there are a couple of aspects that I did end up enjoying. First, there is a whole trading up aspect. It's a big part of the book. Basically, our two main characters start off with a rubber band and they end up trading up until they get like Seahawks season tickets, which I think are worth like $5,000. And it was so impressive to me how that worked. I don't know if it works in real life, but I just thought that it was such an interesting concept and I had never read anything like it before. And I really appreciated that. Also, there's something that I liked, but I wish it had been more developed upon. And that is our main character's love for personality quizzes. So we're told from the beginning that Ali is a big fan of personality quizzes and she takes them all the time. And at first we even have little sections like these that include little personality quizzes, but it wasn't consistent. Like it started off strong and there were like a couple throughout the book, but mostly at first. And I was like kind of thrown off by it, but I ended up quite enjoying them because they showed how much our main character loved personality quizzes. But like throughout the middle of the book, we just didn't really get any of those. And then at the end, they kind of make you come back. I just wish it had been more consistent. Like if you're going to give me personality quizzes, do it right. Don't just like sprinkle some of them at the beginning and then at the end. I ended up giving this book a 2 out of 5 stars. Sad, but I just didn't care. Like I almost gave it a 3, but I was like, I didn't care about anything, which means that we're finally going to start our final book. Oh my god, you guys, I feel like I've been filming this for ages and it's probably a super long video too, but I'm so happy that we're finally going to be reading our final book, which is Open Road Summer. I have high hopes that we'll cover more ground because so far like we see a little bit more like diversity in terms of colors, but most of our characters go through the route that Amy and Rogers went through. So I'm hoping that this book, which is like featuring a nationwide tour, will include more locations that we just haven't visited so far, like a lot more states at the very least. Hello! So I have finished reading Open Road Summer by Emery and wow, I really enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting much diving into it. I don't know if it's because I read The Disenchantments by Lacour, but my expectations for this book were kind of low. Maybe it's because it's been published like in 2014 and so it's been a while and I was afraid that it wouldn't hold up now. But I'm surprised by how much I ended up actually enjoying this book. So I enjoyed pretty much everything about this book. Like the characters were amazing. All of them were so detailed and raw, and while they were kind of stereotypical, like we are following 3 characters who are kind of like a stereotype of what you would expect from these characters. So like you have Regan, our main character, who is like the bad girl, and I thought that was really refreshing that we were reading from the point of view of the bad girl. But you expect her to be like this one-faceted human who's just like doing bad things and that's it, but she's actually so much more than that. Then we have the love interest who is like this pop star kind of guy, and once again you expect him to be a certain way, but he's so much more. And then you have the best friend who is a country star. I just felt like they were all multifaceted and I really appreciated that about it. The author really went in depth with each of the characters and they all had their own struggles, and I don't know, it just felt so raw and real to me and I really appreciated that about it. I also liked how we get a deeper insight on like stardom and just like the celebrity superstar like lifestyle, I guess, because our main character is touring with a country superstar and there's like a lot of discussion about what it's like being a star and what it's like having fans and everything, and I never really read books that are from this point of view, so it's nice to have a perspective on the whole being a star thing. I don't know, I thought that was so interesting and like it added a layer of not only depth but of fun as well. I feel like it was unexpected. I don't know, I wasn't expecting it to be like a superstar situation. Like I kind of knew that diving into it, but I wasn't sure how deep into it we would dive, if that makes sense. And romance was super cute. I loved the friendship and overall it was just a lot of fun and I would really recommend it. So I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really liked it and I'm really surprised by how much I ended up enjoying it. Like I said, such a nice surprise. Now let's talk about our map real quick. Ta-da! So as you can tell, the book covered quite a bit of ground and like you can't really tell because like a lot of the states that they visited in Open Road Summer had already been visited by other characters, but like you can tell that this whole section has been like visited by our main characters and they traveled a lot, so that was nice. And let's draw conclusions from our whole map thing. As you can tell, the lower states, like the bottom states, are like pretty much all covered throughout the books, but all the top states like Montana, Minnesota, Iowa, just a bunch of states up north are not super represented in road trip books. Don't know if it's just the books that I picked or it's just that people don't really go there, but it was a nice experience like filling this map up. Like honestly, I had so much fun just seeing the path that our main characters were taking, and I just really enjoyed doing that. So that was a really fun part of the video. Like I really enjoyed that part of it. Okay, so now that I've read all 8 road trip books, which ones would I recommend? So first and foremost, I feel like I cannot go without mentioning Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Matson. Like I said, this is like a staple in my opinion. Like if you haven't read this, just drop everything and do it because it's so good. It's old, but it still holds up today, and I really enjoyed it. And I think if you guys haven't read it, highly recommend it. It's like one of my all-time favorite books, so I would really recommend it. Then another favorite that I discovered is I Want to Be Where You Are by Kristina. It's just incredible. I'm so excited because this author is coming up with a new book this summer. Then of course I have to talk about Conventionally Yours by Annabeth. I fell in love with this book. I don't know why. I wasn't expecting to love this one as much as I did, but it was so good. The geek rep, I guess, is really good as well. There's so much diversity in this book. It's great all around. Of course, we have to talk about Open Road Summer. Like I just said, I really enjoyed it. Such an amazing book, and it really made me want to listen to country songs, which is like really weird for me because I'm not a country music fan. So if you're looking for road trip vibes, those 4 books are probably the ones that I would recommend the most. However, there's 2 other books. If you're looking for something that has somewhat of a road trip vibe, or if you're looking for something fun, they are definitely books that should be on your radar. First off, we have Your Destination Is on the Left by Spieller. There's so much more about this book that I think is really worth it, such as the whole discovering your path and being at crossroads, and there's a lot that I really appreciated about that book. The only thing that bugged me is the romance, but maybe you'll get on board. I just didn't like it. And finally, I also enjoyed Along for the Ride by Mimi Grace. It was really good. Like the romance was chef's kiss, and it was such a fun read. I really enjoyed the whole like job aspects of our main character. Like it's a big part of the book, and I enjoyed that about it. So that is it for this second episode of Books Around the World. If you've made it this far, drop a car emoji in the comments down below. Like I know this vlog is super long, but thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions or recommendations as to where you would like me to visit next, make sure you leave that in the comments down below. But I guess that's it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!